Good evening. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We thank you for joining us tonight for our Board of Education monthly meeting. Today is November 19, 2020, and we begin at 6:30 p.m. So we are calling our meeting into order. At this time, we'll have our district mission statement. In partnership with the community, we promote the academic and personal growth of each student through rigorous programs that support lifelong learning. Okay, at this time, I would like to ask Mr. Harris to talk to us about the streaming audience and your ability to participate.
So for those that are here participating virtually, you do have the option of participating by sending an email to comments@pittsgrove.net. And I believe there's instructions on both the website and the live stream on YouTube. If you have any instructions, please list your name, where you're from, and your comment. And again, it's comments@pittsgrove.net.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. At this time, we will have roll call.
Mrs. Foster. Mr. Hancock.
Here.
Mr. Hardman.
Here.
Mr. Milletta. Mrs. Mullen. I'll come back to her. I think she's just joining on. Mr. Wenzel.
Here.
Mr. Wheaton.
Here.
Mr. DiMatteo.
Here.
Dr. Cannon.
Here.
Mrs. Mullen.
Here.
We have a quorum. Oh, Andrea. I'm sorry. Mrs. Foster. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harris. And again, welcome everyone to our board meeting tonight. At this time, we're going to have our student presentations, our student awards, and they will go in this order. Dr. Ocasio Jimenez for the Norma Cubs, the Elmer Eagles, Mr. Bruce, Olivet Owls, Mr. Monty, PTMS Top Cats will be Mr. Hudson, and our Arthur P. Shylock High School Cougars of the Month and Cougar Pride, Mrs. Yvette Du Bois Tremblay, at this time.
Good evening, everyone. I am proud to present our Cubs of the Month. These students have demonstrated pride at our school. 2 students are selected each month per grade level. And we're going to begin with our pre-K 4 students. The first one was selected by Miss Lutz, and it is Tatum Van Leer. And this is what she says. Tatum always shows care and compassion towards her friends. She makes sure everyone is included, loves helping bring a smile to every other student in the classroom when they're feeling down, and finds ways to make every situation fun and funny. She is eager to learn, loves participating in activities, and never gives up on learning. Our next student was from Miss Cole, and it is Gabriel Collazo. And this is what she says. Gabriel Collazo is always excited to attend our class. He is always ready to share what he knows about our current study. He is also very respectful, sweet, and kind towards his teachers and classmates. He also had completed all of his assignments with enthusiasm. Gabriel is a Norma Cub. And now we have our pre-K 3 students. And the first one was nominated by Miss Lutz, and it is Benjamin Cooper. Benjamin represents each component of pride every day here at Norma School. He is hardworking, eager to learn, and always goes above and beyond during activities. He is kind, patient, and caring towards his friends. He puts a smile on the face of every person he interacts with. The next student is from Ms. Cole, and it is Julia Buff. Julia is a sweet, kind, soft-spoken student She has completed all of her assignments, and she has developed the patience she needs to learn topics that she has not yet mastered. Her willingness to learn has made her a great influence on her classmates. We are so proud of Julia and how far she has come. Keep up the great work. And these are our Norma Cubs.
Thank you, Dr. Acosta.
Actually, good evening, Dr. Cannon. I believe Mr. Bruce could not be here at the beginning of the meeting, so I am charged with introducing the Elmer Eagles.
Thank you.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. This is Mr. Monty. I am the principal of Olivet School, but as I mentioned, Mr. Bruce apologizes, but he could not be here at the very beginning of this meeting, so I am very proud to announce the Elmer Eagles. So first up, it looks like we have from kindergarten, Paige Lyons. Our other kindergarten student, who's an Elmer Eagle, is Cole Matkowski. And for first grade, we have Delaney Smith. And our other first grade owl is Kush Patel. So congratulations to the Elmer Eagles.
Thank you, Mr. Monty.
Okay, and now for our Olivet Owls. What we do at Olivet is we pick 2 students from each grade level, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, that show our pride motto. So first up is our 2nd graders, and these students are from Mrs. McAvoy's class, and we have Emma Rowe and Logan Hitchner. In 3rd grade, these students were chosen by, Miss Cunningham, but now Mrs. Rippard. Congratulations, she just recently got married. But we have Cheyenne Cohort and Chase Moyer. And our 4th grade owls, I believe these students come from Mrs. Kay Botino's class. And we have Kylie Parvin and Will Bennett. So again, congratulations, boys and girls. Thank you for being such great role models for the other students at Olivet School.
Thank you, Mr. Monty.
Good evening, everybody. This is Ryan Hudson, the principal over at Pittsgrove Township Middle School, and it is my sheer delight to be able to announce our top cats for grades 5 through 8 this evening. In 5th grade, our first top cat is Leilani Hernandez, and our other 5th grade student is Craig English. Moving into 6th grade, our first top cat is Gracelyn Walker. And the other top cat is for 6th grade is Gary Simonini. Moving into 7th grade, Miranda Hancock and Jason Nitz. Moving into 8th grade, Kylie Cole and Connor O'Toole. Congratulations to all of our middle school top cats. Continue your hard work. It is truly paying off in and out of the classroom. Great job.
Thank you, Mr. Monty.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Boyce Tremblay, principal at Shallock High School. It is my pleasure and honor this evening to present to you our 12th grade Cougars of the Month. And I'd like to start with Ms. Brooke McAllister, our 12th grade female Cougar of the Month. At this time, I would like to share with the Board of Education and our community a brief biography about Brooke and her accomplishments and interests. Brooke McAllister is the daughter of Bill and Christy McAllister of Pennsville. Brooke is a member of the Art Academy and is an active member of Mock Trial and the National Art Honor Society. In addition to her involvement in school, Brooke also participates in activities outside of school, such as the Empty Bowls fundraiser. Brooke is a very talented artist, and she has received numerous awards for her work. She won first place at the 2019 Italian Cultural Foundation of South Jersey's Italian Heritage Student Art Competition, first place in the Art is Cool Sophomore Division 2019, and she won first place in the annual Art Academy exhibition in both 2018 and 2019. In her spare time, Brooke enjoys working on her art, reading, writing, gardening, cooking, and making clothes. After graduation, Brooke plans to attend to her plants, read her books, help wherever she can, and hopefully make the world a little brighter. And this was the nomination written about Brooke. Brooke is an outstanding artist. She is very creative and intelligent, yet she is quite humble about her talents and successes. Brooke is quick to compliment other classmates' work and offers encouragement regularly. She worked very hard on her AP portfolio last year, both in researching her subject matter and in executing each of her 9 drawings. She, deservedly, was awarded the highest score. She is soft-spoken and may fly under the radar, but she has many gifts. Ladies and gentlemen, Brooke McAllister. Joining Brooke this evening, our male Cougar of the Month is Lane Schwegel. Lane is the son of Scott and Laura Schwegel of Millville. He is a member of the Art Academy. He is also an active member of the National Art Honor Society, in addition to serving as our Student Council representative. Lane is also a very talented artist whose artwork has won in the following awards. First place at the 2019 Italian Cultural Foundation of South Jersey's Italian Heritage Student Art Competition, and State Selection Award, New Jersey Teen Arts 2019. Lane describes himself as an extrovert and has no problem approaching people and initiating conversations. He is also very organized. Outside of school, Lane is a gymnastics coach at Starbound Gymnastics in Bridgeton, and he volunteers as a group leader in his church CCD program. When he is not busy with his scholastic achievement, Lane enjoys running, going for drives, exploring, drawing, and just hanging out with his friends. After graduation, Lane plans to go to college for business. He also plans to earn his real estate license when he turns 18, so that he can work as a real estate agent while earning his college degree. His plan is to build up his experience and reputation in the real estate field so that once he obtains his business degree, he can open up his own successful real estate agency. And this was the nomination written about Lane. Lane is such an easygoing person, but not to the extent that he's a pushover. He can stand his ground. He is confident, but not to the point of arrogance. He is a very diligent student and does not wither in the face of critique. It is always in a good mood, and that he is always smiling, and is helpful in class. Lane brings school spirit and good vibes each day to class and to our school at large. Ladies and gentlemen, Lane Schwegel. Joining our seniors for this month, we have grade 11 Pride recipient Savannah Sakaguchi and Alex Vega. Grade 10 Chloe Weber and Aiden Capistran Cortázar. And for grade 9, Carly Kiter and Devin Heckman. Again, it's my honor to announce our awardees for the month of November. We thank our students for being such positive role models here at Shallock High School. Keep up the great work and carry yourselves with pride. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. DeVos. And on behalf of the Board of Education, we salute all of our award recipients on this evening, and we congratulate you for a job well done. We also wish to thank the parents and grandparents and all those who support our youth in helping them in striving and achieving in their academics. So again, we thank you all. Okay, at this time, we are going to move into our committee reports. And we'll start with Mr. Hartman in our Operations Subcommittee report.
Thank you. The highlights of our meeting, we reviewed the acceptance the coronavirus relief funds, and we discussed using this grant money for HEPA folders in the classrooms. We went over transportation, and Mr. Harris reminded us that, when phase 2 beginning this Monday, that the bus drivers would have new routes. The food service, Mr. Harris noted that it was doing very well, and, actually we're serving more students now than we normally do. We reviewed the long-range facility plan. This is the inventory of equipment and systems by every building in the system. And it highlights everything that we need to do in the next 5 years. And that'll become very important over the next, year or two. We're going to have to really review that and see how we can fit that into the budget. Mr. Harris also provided an update on the ESIP plan, and we reviewed the bond referendum projects. And that will probably be over the next year or two, where we are going to have to discuss whether we want to go out to bond and what do we want to go out for. We discussed the road back phase 2 that went into effect on this week. And then we had, and that was it.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay, it's been motion and second. Is there any discussion about the operations committee report? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. At this time, we'll ask Ms. Foster if she would present our curriculum committee report.
It goes without saying that at our committee meeting, we also talked about the road back phase 2 plan. Some other business that we spoke about at our committee meeting was that the district continues to hire for our SAC program. We also talked a little bit about the fact that Rowan is continuing to bring in student teachers to our district, and that 2 more will be added in the spring. In addition, Mrs. Fox-Mano updated the committee about the RTI program, and although the RTI program continues, it is going to look a little bit different, as many things are looking different because of COVID restrictions, but that it is going to be still in place as we move through the school year.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion, please, to receive that curriculum report?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. At this time, we will have our administrative report by Mr. Wheaton.
Okay, under personnel, we had a retirement, bus mechanic left us. We have 3 letters of resignation. There was a new hire at SAC. We had the substitute teacher list review. Mike Clark is leaving us, unfortunately, and there's a bit of a additions or some changes to the job description for athletic director. There was the nursing service plan. It's just, I guess, a routine kind of thing. There's some included stuff now with COVID stuff. Our doctor and our nurses, under his direction, coordinate all that. Our annual memorandum agreement between law enforcement and the district. Youth advocacy program, outpatient services requested to use the school once a week for some counseling for students and families. There's a revised policy from New Jersey School Boards Association. The name we have for second reading and adoption, it pertains to the gifted and talented. Fire drill, security reports, fundraisers. The school reports, there was an early dismissal request for prom day. And approval for the spring musical. The winter coaching appointments is on there. Salem County College dual credits agreement. And they're going to establish an after-school newspaper club. Appointed advisor for such. had the community engagement stuff, I think we all had that. The road back stuff and the use of facilities, we had a couple groups. Guess we're gonna discuss that a little bit further in length tonight. Because if we open it for one, we guess we open it for all. We had the Assembly of God Church has been using our facility for many years, as well as the Pittsgrove Basketball Association. So we got some, guess we're gonna get some guidance from the NJSIAA.
Yes.
And all the rest of the stuff is what we all discussed, outdoor filter stuff, and administrative reports and all that.
Thank you, Mr. Wheaton. Okay, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there a motion and second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? So moved. Okay, at this time, we'll continue to move on with the minutes. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the following minutes. Special,
Participation, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, audience participation is next. Mr. Harris, do we have anybody?
As a reminder to participate, if you're virtual, it's comment@pittsgrove.net. Send an email to comment@pittsgrove.net. As of right now, there is no public participation.
Okay, thank you. All right, the minutes from the Special Board of Education meeting on September 30th, closed session meeting September 30th, Special Board of Education meeting October 5th, closed session meeting October 5th, Special Board of Education meeting October 8th, closed session meeting October 8th, Board of Education meeting October 15th, closed session meeting October 15th, and the Special Board of Education meeting October 22nd, and the closed session meeting October 22nd. Of course, all those are in 2020. And we need approval, if I can get a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Thank you. At this time, we will have our superintendent's report. Mr. Coleman.
Thank you. I would like to ask for a motion for items 12A through G.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion and second. Mr. Harris, can I have a roll call?
This is for superintendent's report, item number 12A through G. Mrs. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Hardman,
Yes.
Mrs. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Wenzel,
Yes.
Mr. Wheaton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Dr. Cannon.
Yes,
Motion carries.
so moved. This time, school reports. Mr. Coleman.
Yes, I'd like a motion to approve items A through 5. Before we do, I just want to point out two things of interest. We are revising the spring musical. The new one we're putting in is Songs for a New World. And also under 5, early dismissal for scheduled prom date. You heard that mentioned in the committee report. We've had to move that date because of COVID. We got bumped. And so that new date will be, it was May 21st, and now it's going to be May 7th. And there'll be an early dismissal, but only for the high school. So it didn't change our professional development schedule that was approved on the 12-month calendar. Okay? Okay, now is someone to give a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Harris, can we get a roll call?
This is for item number 13, school report, letters A 1 through 5. Mrs. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Hardman,
Yes.
Mrs. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Wenzel,
Yes.
Mr. Wheaton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Dr. Cannon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Is our special education supervisor on?
We have a report from special education.
I don't believe she's
I don't think she's on. Okay.
Okay.
I think that is an attachment. Let me just see.
It's a special education addendum. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve special education monthly student updated date November 16, 2020. Approval of the special education monthly student update dated November 16, 2020. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's the motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Okay, community engagement. I am going to ask with the Equity Committee update minutes from Mrs. Stephanie Foxman, if she would share with us. And the Pittsgrove Arts and Education Foundation can be either her or Mr. Harris and myself. Can't get it.
Mine's not.
Oh, it's probably better, yeah. Just try to hold it away from that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Pennon.
You're welcome.
As far as the minutes for the Equity Committee, we had our first meeting on October 28th. That is one of multiple meetings that we will have throughout the school year. We did some introduction activities because this year we're bringing together both the administrative team and the teacher team to work as one committee. So there were some introductions. We talked about norms for our group. We also talked about what equity work looks like, and some things that, we will be working through as far as PD, continued PD with equity. And then we also spent time updating the group, both Dr. Alvarez and myself, on the areas in which we've already identified that we are going to be doing more equity work. So the areas of curriculum and assessment. We are also looking at connectedness to school. We are also looking at discipline. And the last one is, I'm drawing a blank.
Connectivity?
We are looking at technology, but the last one is,
It's a curriculum,
I already said curriculum and assessment. We already talked about connectedness.
discipline.
Representation of students. And so those are areas that we're going to be looking at more in depth. And we actually already started doing that in our last meeting, which was yesterday. And next steps are to start looking at the data and starting to really plan out action steps. So our last meeting was actually yesterday. So there will be some updated minutes on what we accomplished in our November meeting. But that's where we got so far as the October 28th.
Awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Foxman, for also, in addition to what has been done in the past, she has given us minutes from the meeting so that we stay informed. And I'm appreciative. We all are appreciative of that. Thank you so much.
If I may add to that, I was at both meetings, and I have to say, they were excellent, especially last night's meeting. 2 hours, but it seemed to go fast because we broke into subgroups and really had a lot of great discussion. So I really commend the board for this, commend the administration. Once again, as the outside guy looking at it, I think it's a really valuable exercise. And they're doing a nice job with the group that you've hired from Rowan University and Dr.
Alvarez.
Dr.
And Dr. Zion, we worked with her all last year, and she still will be in and out for us. But Dr. Alvarez is our main contact this year.
It's nice to see that our district is moving forward with this equity and diversity implementation. Okay, the Pittsgrove Arts and Education Foundation.
So our Arts and Education Foundation right now is working on getting the materials and things to our teacher grants that were awarded so that those teachers can begin on their projects. And they will be presenting to the Board of Education in the springtime so that you can see each of their projects and the outcomes for students. And the other work that we've been doing is on fundraising. What kind of fundraisers are we going to be doing this year? Of course, they need to look different because a lot of our events are in person. So we have been working on different ideas, and our first fundraiser will be coming up very shortly. So we're getting all of that information together. So stay tuned for some fundraisers shortly.
Yes, Santa's coming to visit, I think, right?
Yeah.
And it won't be long. Okay, thank you so very much, Ms. Foxwell. And at this time, it just leads right into your curriculum and instruction.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to approve number 16, letters A through D. But before we do, I just want to also note that letter D was something new that was added. We are always looking for additional instructors, and we were able to get another substitute instructor for Olivet. So I wanted to put that on for this evening. So that was something that we did not talk about in committee because this occurred after committee, but we're thankful to Jason for wanting to also be a part of our Title I Extended Day program. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve number 16, letters A through D.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and second. Mr. Harris, can we have a roll call?
For item number 16, A through D. Mrs. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Hardman,
Yes.
Mrs. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Wenzel,
Yes.
Mr. Wheaton,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Dr. Cannon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, so moved. Okay, at this time, Board of Education business. Is there any unfinished business at this time that anybody would like to discuss?
If I may, I think I'll use this opportunity since we have two other items on the new business and that the COVID-19 issue really is unfinished business.
Yes, please go right ahead.
Long for the day that we can say it's finished business. But it is not finished business. So I would like to use this opportunity to brief the public on where we are with our COVID-19. So we did have, I want to start with, we did have two more cases, and if I can get some help here, Yvette, if you can help me in case I need it on describing this. But one was, we got a positive case of a student who was already being quarantined. The family at home quarantined him because they had suspected that there might have been a contact outside of school. So there was no need for us to do contact tracing. We did have another, what's known as a presumptive positive. Now, presumptive positive is something new under the added orange category, which started today. So I can tell you that things are really fluid today because of the new way we have to do things. So a presumptive positive is now under the orange category, determined if anybody who is showing 2 out of the 3, I think it's 2 out of 3, COVID-like symptoms, instead of waiting for them to possibly have been in contact with somebody who was a positive, which then makes them possibly presumptive if they show symptoms, now the standard has been raised or lowered, however you want to look at it, that anyone who may show symptoms that are similar to COVID, like a scratchy throat, a fever, a couple of other symptoms I don't want to go into, but we then have to presume that they're presumptive positive. At that point, we then have to do a contact search to determine anyone that person might have been in within 6 feet for a designated period of time. So I believe at last count that really only constituted 6 students. They've been notified, they will be on quarantine. Normally I send a letter out, usually accompanying this. However, today was so busy because we had to work on discussing and revising the schedule. And I wanted to get that letter out before the board meeting. I didn't want to send that notification letter out at the same time, just overwhelming people. So the more important message was the one I'm going to talk about, and that's the orange category. We met as an administration today for quite a while and discussed what we should do next. And as you know, I sent a message out to the community and to the staff, the board members, regarding what would happen if we go into the orange category. We knew that it was coming. So basically, the orange category is what is known as higher risk. And with that, the real distinction and the difference is that what I just mentioned, the level, the bar for what is determined to be a presumptive positive now, I guess the best way to say it has been lowered so that we have to include a lot more people. So if somebody sneezes, a child comes to the nurse's office, they may have a sore throat combined with some of these other symptoms, which by the way, you could demonstrate if you had allergies and a variety of a common cold. We now have to act upon that, okay? The guidance says, and I'll be very upfront with this, the guidance says that, they recommend, the health department, that maybe you go all virtual. However, you're not mandated to. That if you choose to stay in school, you just have to follow those new requirements in terms of the contact tracing. We do everything else already as a matter of being in yellow. So at one point, you have the Department of Health saying, maybe you should go all virtual. Why? Well, it's easier. Okay, it's the ultimate safety. At the same time, while we were meeting, I was presented with a communication that came out, and I believe our governor signed it, stating that he feels it's most important that we do everything we can to keep our children in school. So the governor, as I thought, but remember on the email, I said we might be told that we have to go back to hybrid or possibly go all virtual by the governor. But since that time and that went out, this governor seems to have a mode of operation that basically leaves these decisions up to the local districts. So we obviously took that opportunity because with us being in the orange, our rate of infection in this part of our area of the state, the southwest state, which goes from Burlington County all the way down to Salem, our rate of infection is a lot less than what the cutoff would have been if we were orange. Darren, I know I had you look into this, and if you could just give us the latest data that you had. And
So breaking out the data given by the Salem County Department of Health, the case rate to be considered very high, the case rate, which is for the Southwest, it's at 38, I believe it's around 38 for last week per 100,000 daily case rate. For the Southwest, which is Burlington to Salem. Salem itself was around 20, so about half of that for the case rate per 100,000. And Cumberland County was very similar to that as well. Gloucester was higher, Camden was significantly higher, and Burlington was higher. And that's what's driving it. And to be honest, Salem's such a small county population-wise compared to Gloucester, Camden, and Burlington. It's not going to honestly move that needle in the Southwest very much. And to be frank, if Salem County had very high numbers and Camden, Gloucester, and Burlington had very low numbers, we'd have a very low score. So it's important to look at it. We've been designated Southwest by the state. We are following the parameters at Southwest. We are considered high risk, so it's important to look at that. But it's also important to look at your local community, which for this area is certainly Salem, Cumberland, and Gloucester.
And they can find this on the website, Mr. Harris, that calendar or that map of what it looks like. Did we put that on the website?
Yes, it is. And that's one of the things probably I'm going to put out tomorrow. There's been so much information, and I know I shared it with the board, but we are going to share with the public the link that you can go to get all this information. What is orange? What is red? What is, so it's just that I wanted us to get through this first so that people can reference it. So based on what Mr. Harris said, our discussion really started with this, and I had this discussion with the committees. We feel, I think the consensus, me coming in as an interim superintendent, saw that it seems to be the consensus of this community is shared with what the governor said, that we want to do everything we can to have our children in school as much as possible. We understand that there are some who don't feel that way. You're always going to have that. But the consensus seemed to be that that's where this district wanted to go, and I certainly want to respect the will of the people and the consensus of the community and the board. So keeping that in mind, that our job, our true north, as I like to call it, is to do everything we can to try to stay in school, but make sure we keep our children safe in doing it, meaning that we follow the directives by the health department. What we realize is in this change, what's happening is that there's going to be an increase in the amount of people we possibly identify as presumptive positive, because the symptoms now are much less demanding to be classified that. And secondly, because of that, there's going to be a lot more contact tracing. So we then had to look at conceptually where we are in our district. And the nurses were part of this conversation. I really want to emphasize they are, quite frankly, our heroes. They are the point people. They are what's driving us forward and helping us make the right decisions. So in looking at that, really what we came down to, very simply, is that if we could reduce capacity where needed in order to maintain a safe environment and carry out the new regulations that we have to follow, we have to look at our schedules. But we shouldn't look at it as a whole district. Once again, our goal is to keep our kids in school as much as possible in the safest environment we can provide. What we found with this increased burden of this tracing and these indications is that our current schedules in the high school and middle school have our kids move around a lot, okay? So if we should have a presumptive positive, which we will, as we already have today, because of the different contacts they have and the nature of that schedule, it just increases the number of contacts we would have to make. The more kids we have in one cohort, obviously the more contacts there will be, the greater the work. We had to really sit down and say, could we handle that capacity? Okay? We couldn't ignore that. So thus, as my letter went out today, the decision was that in the middle school and in the high school, we will revert back to the hybrid schedule. simply because we couldn't honestly say we could manage, given how those cohorts interact and the mere volume, okay? That's safety first, guys. But we also maintained the integrity of trying to keep our kids in school as much as we could, proportionate to the safety, okay? Then when we realized when we moved down to the elementary, that formula no longer applies. Because instead of one student seeing 150 students in their day, in terms of if they were presumptive positive and that would be all their contacts, our elementary levels are much more contained. And so we may have one student and all they contact is 25 kids. And if you whittle that down to within 6 feet, that may even be half of that. So there was no need to go to hybrid on the elementary level. We were able to maintain the integrity and that mission of trying to have our kids remain in school as much as possible. So we didn't do a one-size-fits-all. That would have been easy. We made a more difficult decision to break this up. I have to once again commend the nurses who say, we got this, we can do this, okay? The principal said we can do this. We had a lot of discussion about it because there's pros and cons to both, but we felt this was the best solution. We also sat down and said, okay, how are we going to do this? And the initial reaction may be, we're in code orange, we got to run for the hills. In other words, because we're code orange, is there immediacy to it? When we then look at the data of the rate of infection, that really hasn't changed much from 2 days ago to probably next week. It won't change much. So orange isn't like, you know, a wave coming in upon us all of a sudden. It's very transitional. So today is no different than yesterday, except that today they've qualified us to be orange. I'm saying that because what is the immediacy that we have to do? So we decided that I think it's prudent for the parents' sake, for our sake, to basically say, we will continue with the current schedule until the Thanksgiving break. We're announcing it today, but we're going to give parents the opportunity to make any kind of childcare arrangements they may need. We may want to look at some slight variations in our schedules with the middle school and high school and elementary, maybe at a Wednesday, a virtual Wednesday. But since we have the time, since there isn't an urgency to this based on the data, we decided that that will be the plan. That we will, in the high school and middle school, we will go back to the hybrid schedule beginning on Monday the 30th, I believe it's the 30th, after Thanksgiving, and it'll be status quo with the elementaries for now, because we feel it's a safe environment, it makes sense, it's logical. So that's basically the letter I really wanted to get out today. I rushed it. I think I came in here sweating because I wanted to give the public an opportunity at the public session to make any comments and not let them hear it for the first time for those who may be watching. I really think we have to be totally upfront about this and try to give anyone who may want to have some comment tonight during the audience participation section to do that. So that's pretty much it as we stand right now. Does anybody have any questions before we move on?
Mr. Cohen, do you want to just further explain the presumptive positive, that if a test should come back negative, what happens?
Thank you. Yeah, so you understand the other piece of this, and I'm sorry I didn't cover so much of it. When you're a presumptive positive, we have one current right now, and and everybody knows we sent a letter out. I think that was the Olivet issue. If the test comes back negative, then all quarantines are off and everybody's back. So as at the high school now, we have a presumptive positive because of certain symptoms that could have meant anything, but the new orange category says you have to do that. By tomorrow, by Friday, well, tomorrow is Friday, by Monday, those tests could come back, that student's negative, everybody's back. So it's a very fluid situation. And that's why we want to try to maintain our course, you know, and a steady course, and not just jump to every time there's something happening. I think we're really doing a nice job of identifying and controlling the situation. And so once we have an indication, we are on it, and we have it contained so it's not spreading. So far, so good. So, okay, any other questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
please. So, I hear, I appreciate everything that you're saying.
Andrew, could you turn your
Oh, yeah, sure. I thought that I was projecting it. I thought that I was projecting enough as a teacher. It's not.
Yeah, it came on.
Okay, there we go.
So I appreciate everything that you're saying. I think that you're doing a really nice job of explaining everything. I'm pleased to hear that the nurses are on board, and it sounds like the administrators are on board too. But as a teacher, how are the teachers feeling at Olivet and Norma about this? And my question is not only to you, but it's also to Mr. Monty and Mr. Bruce if he's here, because as a teacher, my thoughts are with all of the teachers. So how is your staff feeling about this?
If I may, Ms. Foster, just so, one of the things I did do today is once we made the decision and I contacted, the board, I got the letter ready, I also at the same time made sure I called the association president
Yeah.
to advise them of what we're doing. And then right before I got here, I sent a letter to the staff to let them know, this is coming out, this is where we are. So,
Yeah.
I can't speak for the principals. Maybe I should. Let them answer and see
Yeah.
how their staff are feeling and what their consensus might be.
Mr. Bruce and Mr. Monty, if you're there.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I can speak as far as Elmer's concerned with moving into phase 2. It's been a very smooth transition. The teachers have done an excellent job setting up their classrooms, getting ready for their classes. I feel that they have enjoyed having their class as a whole unit back together. We are certainly, following the guidelines. We're being proactive with things like Mr. Coleman has said. And as far as I can tell, the staff is, like I said, has enjoyed the transition back with phase 2. And I think we can continue to do that in this orange phase. So as far as Elmer is concerned, speaking for the staff at this point, we're at a comfort level moving forward at this point.
Great.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Obviously, I cannot speak directly to this decision because, we obviously met very late in the day. And Mr. Coleman sent out his letter, so I have not spoken to my staff directly. However, what I can tell you in terms of phase 2, things have gone well. I know the teachers were excited to have all of the students back. Particularly those students that were struggling at home with the virtual learning. It was very trying for some of our younger learners, in particular. Interestingly enough, and as everybody knows, Olivet has had a couple situations. So while the optics of it might be is, oh, we brought everybody back and now look what happened. But if you actually do the tracing and you go back, it actually would have occurred regardless. Because it would have occurred in terms of, I guess, the initial infection or the initial symptoms, if you will, would have been the end of last week. So regardless of whether we were, in hybrid or not, the situations of us having to quarantine certain students and having to quarantine actually class would have occurred anyway. But like I said, I can only speak to how things have gone so far. I truly have not had a conversation with any of my staff members in regards to this decision yet.
And if I may say, I really wanted to defer to them to see where they were, but basically this is right off the griddle, so to speak. And,
Right.
I did talk to the association president. She basically is just a great person, by the way, and just acknowledged it very professionally. So I don't know what feedback she may get. So we may get some feedback regarding that. Let me say, and also yesterday, I took the opportunity to visit every school. I wanted to see in person basically what it looked like now that we were in phase 2. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. Pardon me for getting a little emotional. But to watch those kids back in school and the joy in their faces, I couldn't imagine telling them 3 days later, it's over, we're going back home. And I think as educators, we all feel that. And I think as parents, everybody feels that, which is why we have such a determination to do everything we can to keep them here. And it was really great to hear the governor endorse that today. Because he knew what was going to happen once those orange classifications came out. And for him to come out soon after that and to remind everybody, this doesn't mean pardon me saying this, run for the hills. Everybody needs to be more diligent. Everybody needs to be more careful, but we can't abandon our most important mission. We have to carry on. So I was really impressed by what I saw and emotionally taken back by watching these kids for the first time back as a group and just watching the energy in that room. And secondly, how well they behaved. Come out of classes, they're in lines, they're 6 feet apart. There are shields between every desk. All these precautions are there, so. And the teachers seem energized. I don't want to speak too much for them, that wouldn't be fair. I just took a quick glimpse, but we'll just have to wait and see, and certainly we will respect their opinions, respect their concerns. And furthermore, just to end this, I want to remind every parent that if some of you, as we go to Orange, are uncomfortable with this, we absolutely respect that. And then certainly the beauty of this is we can afford you the option to go all virtual if you so choose. And nobody casts aspersions, nobody, may criticize that, because that's something that we want to provide, because everybody individually has a different sense of what this is and what they want. We want to respect that. And once again, I want to thank the board, because you guys provided a vehicle and a way for parents to do that in this schedule. So thank you. And are there any other questions?
Yeah, Tom, this is Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, there you are. Okay.
Okay, here I am. So I absolutely agree that the students do best in an in-person environment. I shared this is not new for you to hear from me, but I'm going to share it. So we're in public session right now.
Sure.
I have serious concerns. I have serious concerns with us turning this on as of Monday. Everything is delayed. So remember, what our cases are today will be replicated and duplicated again in a week and a week after that, because it's a 2-week time period from exposure that you see the ramp up, right? These are delayed responses. I can tell you personally, and not to put my personal business out there, but I have 4 nurses that work in my house. 3 of them have now tested positive and have exposed my family. And we work in a virtual environment. Now, one of them was in a school, and that one person now has handed it to 2 nurses in our home and exposed myself and my family. So understand, it does not take long. And I understand and my nurses are masked, they're gowned, they're trained. These are professionals. So I hear you, and I know we're trying, but you have to understand, I think that we have teachers that, have families at home. We have there's no perfect answer here, but I'm not sitting, I have to tell you, it's concerning to me, because we are heading into a holiday season where our governor has stated we can't have more than 10 people in our home for Thanksgiving, but we can have 30 kids in a classroom. It makes no sense to me. And so I find this incredibly contradictory. And I know the idea is, well, in his home, you shouldn't have, you're going to be eating and having I disagree, because the reality is people take their masks down to breathe sometimes, and they do this. These kids do it. I see that all the time. My nurses have to take a break to eat sometimes. Guess what? So do our students in the elementary schools. They have to eat. They're taking off their masks and eating. They're not half days. And so I hear you loud and clear, but I have to tell you, this scares me, because I do not, as a district, for us to put our children and our staff and our families at risk. There are a lot of districts that have just gone hybrid or have now gone back to virtual, and it concerns me. And I want to state my concerns on behalf of others I'm hearing from in our community. That I think you have a split. You've got those who think wholeheartedly they want their students in all the time. And you know what? I get it. Believe me, I have a special education child at home who's not getting PT and OT and speech services. How is he possibly doing a great virtual meeting with his class? He's not. But you know what? Am I safe in my home? I thought I was, but I also have people that go to other schools. And then those schools are closing down. And it's just this whole, it's an entire, it's a progressive thing. It's one to another. And all of our nurses had little symptoms. It's oh, I have the sniffles. Oh, I have a little cough. Oh, I had a fever for 1 day. It's not these horrible cases. And I get they're recoverable, but it is concerning to me. And I just, ultimately it is your decision as an administration, but my job is to represent our community. and their best interests as well. And so I can't sit by and not state my opinion when it comes to being a voice for them as well, because there are people that feel the same as I do. And yes, we have the choice to go virtual, and I understand that. But if all of our students were virtual, they would be on a much more equal playing field versus some that are in and out, because that's the challenge that comes. That's the reality.
Thank you, Karen. You know, I always respect what you have to say, and I know that you represent a constituency of the district who feel that way. Not everybody is in agreement with this. And, I can only go with what the consensus appears to be, and certainly I think your points are well taken. There are a lot of people who feel that way and have that expressed, and obviously there's a lot of people with other opinions. The best we can do is try to go with that consensus based on the surveys we did, but trust me, when we discussed this today, that is something we discussed. That's why our meeting was an hour and a half to try to come up to this. So I just want you to know thank you, because I think dissension is such a different opinion is such a great point of public dialogue, and I think that needed to be said, because I think you are representing what many people may be feeling right now, and we might even hear from them during the public session. So that's all part of the discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, and I guess I do have one question, Tom. I know that one of the issues initially was when we talked about the hybrid was that we don't have space in our classrooms to do 6 feet apart. So no, we're not, our students, I assume, in this situation are not 6 feet apart. Are we using partitions? I mean, is that how we're set up now?
We're following the guidelines that are established by the Department of Health, that if you're not 6 feet apart, that you must wear a mask, and they recommended the shielding, and we have all of that. All that PPE is there, and all the hygiene requirements that are requested are there. So yes, we are following those based on that, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just add just a couple more things, because I appreciate, Carrie, all of your comments. The other thing we're trying to follow are a multitude of studies of what is out there right now currently. And, schools right now, studies are indicating are not your focal point for being super spreaders of this, according to what the data is currently out there. Not that a school wouldn't contribute to a case, but whether schools are open or not does not mean we're going to have a rise in cases or a decrease in cases. Either way, because schools are open or are not. What we have to also remember is the extreme mental and social impact that is happening to our kids, which we can see in some. Maybe we won't see that for years. So, those are also, it was described today as you're driving a car with your no headlights. It's dark and you have your kids in the car. So I think we have to, also remember that. The other thing too with keeping our elementary is that, kids 10 and under are less likely to contract this. And so, of course we were, looking at that piece, and virtual learning is extremely difficult for your young learners, especially K-1. And I also just wanted to mention too, that as far as the teachers, that was a big part of our conversation today. I am concerned about the teachers, and the idea of going back to hybrid at the elementary level was really, really considered. And as Mr. Coleman mentioned about the momentum, absolutely, our 2 guiding principles, right, were health and safety and equity. And, keeping kids all virtual, that's not equitable. Those situations aren't equitable. They are not. And so when you get kids back in school, there is that chance to give them all the things they need. So, I just wanted to add those couple of things, especially for that elementary, level of kids. We absolutely love them and want to keep everybody safe. So, just wanted to.
Thank you, Stephanie. Let me just say, I think we have to show appreciation to both opinions, and we gave dual sides. You know, in today's world, it always seems to be if somebody's, you know, we're all out to win an argument. This isn't about winning an argument.
No.
This is about appreciating what Carrie said, appreciating what Stephanie said, and taking all those things into consideration. Because it's not about winning a point. It's about listening to all the information. The coaching points that were just made on both sides of this is the people out there want to listen to that and know that and make that decision. So I thank you both for doing that. And we can probably go on and on about this, but we can just simply turn your TV on and see more of it.
Thanks.
You know, but, you know, we try to make the most informed, most prudent decision that we can make.
I
And we
think,
try to base it on science. Go ahead.
right, I just wanted to say on behalf of the board, I believe that our goal is always to make sure that everyone is safe. Our students are safe, the staff is safe, and our community is safe. We are honored to represent our community and to be chosen and voted in to do so. And we just want you to know that our heart is with our community and with our students and wanting everybody to stay safe and well. And the decisions that we are, you know, able to make to see that that happens is what we're going to do. So we just want you to know that we are wanting to keep our community safe, teachers, staff, students, everybody. And we thank you for your input. And if you have anything you'd like to ask as a community, we do have a audience participation session coming up shortly.
And may I just end with, I just want the public also to know that Mr. Carey was here today with us, fully engaged in this conversation. So I really want to thank him for coming in today on his own time, but it was really neat that he was able to be here. And I listened to what he had to say because it's going to be Mr. Carey who's going to have to manage this going on. So another great opportunity, and I think it really is going to help us out moving forward. Thank you.
Anything else under unfinished business? Great discussion. At this time, new business, and one of the first things we wanted to do for new business was to acknowledge Mr. Matt Carey, our new superintendent, who will take on the role in January 1st. And he has been in district off and on for a few days, shadowing, as they would say, or more or less with Mr. Coleman, and going around and going throughout the schools and meeting people and meeting staff in meetings with administration. And he and I had a meeting tonight, and we're just very excited about the transition and welcoming Mr. Carey into the Pittsgrove Township School family. We welcome him.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate thought that went into the decisions.
Hold on that. Let's get you on mic.
Thank you, Dr. Cannon. I truly appreciate that, and the members of the board. I just want to thank Mr. Coleman. He has really brought me in from the minute I was board approved as the incoming superintendent. I've been participating in administrative meetings. I've been to all 5 schools. I've seen the teachers in action. I've seen the students. And I said, you know, originally if you remember, I was going to come yesterday, and then we changed it so that I could attend the board meeting tonight. And I really think that was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I really got an opportunity to be involved in the complete decision-making of moving into tonight's discussion. And I think that, as Tom said, these are going to be, you know, ultimately my decisions that I'm going to inherit when I come in here. And I appreciate the fact that I'm already being included in the decision-making process. So I want to thank the board and Mr. Coleman for making that happen for me. Thank you.
And then before we move on to that new business, just to close, I know I sent a letter out probably at about 4:50 tonight. Just understand that my secretary was gone by then. So if there's any typos or grammatical errors or a comma missing, that's why.
I might have printed for you.
So, and actually, Mr. Carey helped me write some of it, so it was a great effort. But, yeah, so just wanted you to know if there was any mistakes in it. I tried to look at it, but you know, when you try to proof your own work, you don't catch your own mistakes, so.
Yes, but anyway, we do want to just again welcome you, Mr. Carey, and thank you for being here. And trial by fire, we just jump right in and get your feet wet. So, but we do appreciate you taking the time from your current district to come down and to be with us. Okay, as we move on, use of facilities requests. We had 2 requests to use our facilities, Pittsgrove Township Basketball Association and our Victory Assembly of God Church. And I believe we were supposed to get some feedback tonight as to the direction based on Mr. Harris.
So one of the things we wanted to wait on is to get the guidance from New Jersey NJSIAA, which is the New Jersey's Interscholastic Sports. And we thought originally they were going to release it last Friday. That did not happen. They actually released it this morning with a public notice, I believe, today. And so they do have a couple things that they're doing now. I think they probably waited last Friday because of the guidance coming back from Governor Murphy, which if you've been following, his guidance is for indoor sporting events. First of all, no interstate indoor sporting events. Second of all, there's a maximum capacity in the room of 10. However, you can increase that number, but it can only be players, coaches, and referees. So you can have players, coaches, and referees. If that number is above 10, you cannot have anyone else. So there's no spectators allowed, no parents allowed. If it exceeds 10 now, if there's only 3 players and a coach, you can potentially have parents come in. But if that number exceeds 10, no parents or any spectators can go into that event. So that's the guidance that was given by Governor Murphy. That was the guidance, that was the mandate, I should say, given by Governor Murphy, the executive order. And the NJSIA is following suit. But one thing they have done is they pushed back their seasons. So ice hockey, which Pittsgrove does not have, starts December 14th, but basketball, which is what Pittsgrove has, will not start now until January 11th. So the season will run from first practice January 11th, competition start January 26th, competition end March 6th. Swimming and winter track and field will start even later. It would start February 1st and end March 27th. And wrestling, even later. Wrestling would be March 1st, essentially right around the end of the basketball season, and end April 24th. Now, most likely, this hasn't been, they talked about a little bit in spring sports, but most likely this timeline is also going to end up pushing spring sports farther back. Because spring sports in the past has started the first, I believe, Friday in March. And we now have one of our wrestling starting the first day of March. So most likely you're going to see things being pushed back for the spring as well. Postseasons, I don't believe there's going to be NJSIA postseasons for these events as well. So they'll have play during the season, regular season, but there is no plan to have a postseason for basketball, for wrestling, for swimming, I don't believe, and for winter track and field. That's the guidance given by the NJSIA. And we were really waiting for that guidance to really come up with a potential recommendation to consider for the use of facilities request for the Pittsgrove Basketball Association. If this board was willing to go towards that, or looking to go towards that, they would be using the middle school gym and the Olivet gym. Those gyms are not being used by our high school basketball team. The high school basketball team uses the high school. And they'd be required to follow the same restrictions by the executive order of Governor Murphy, which is a maximum of 10 people in that room. But you can exceed that if there are more players, coaches, and referees in town.
So one of the things I think the board should the board should consider, if in fact they want to approve this, is the one other caveat is, if we have to use basketball and there's no fans allowed there, if any of you ever coached youth sports, good luck keeping parents out. So we may have a caveat to this, that they should hire one of our security people to make sure that doesn't happen. Because I can't see how the volunteer coaches could be coaching a sport, and then also be at the same time being in charge of keeping parents out. So that just may be one of the things so that we can get assurance, and that would certainly be at their cost. But I think that's something that you might want to consider, because we have to make sure that is followed. Okay, if in fact you choose to grant them permission. The start time doesn't have to be the same as boys basketball. The reason they're staggering the start times on the high school level is just to minimize the amount of different people sharing a gym. That's not a factor here. Okay. Anna?
And that being said, we do have people in the gym from our schools, so there are things to consider. And then the second request we know is from Victory Assembly of God. You know, that church has been using Shallock High School for 30 plus years, but they have not been in there since March. And we decided in August that you know, we're going to allow no outside groups come in, and we are now revisiting that because it's getting colder. However, we do realize that the cases are going up. You know, the Victory Assembly of God is requesting to use the auditorium, which has a maximum capacity of 400. It's got 400 seats, so 25% would be 100. The churches are not bound by the same 10-person maximum, so they would be 25% up to 150, I believe.
Yeah.
So that would be 100 in the auditorium, as well as they were, I believe, are asking to use the cafeteria as well, and potentially a room for a nursery is the request as well. That's the request from the Victory Assembly of God. They're hoping for some type of decision. They understand the predicament that this board is in fully, but they're hoping for an answer one way or the other soon so they can make their plans accordingly.
Yeah, let me just add that, I think, Darren, maybe you did mention it, but we would require that they follow the same guidelines that are any church does. You know, roping off every other aisle or whatever is roping off 6 feet increments of people and groups. They would be required to follow that. So basically, we would just be instituting what other churches already institute and request that they require those same kind of guidelines. And then that's along with the officially designated capacity numbers for churches. So.
Any comments?
Would they be responsible for cleaning then, or how's that work?
The question is, are we responsible for cleaning?
So we are responsible. We always have in the past had a custodian staff on site while Victory Assembly of God Church was present on Saturday, Sunday. And there was a bill towards that to cover the cost of that. That would continue to have to be the case. This person would have to disinfect after the service. In the past, Pittsgrove Basketball Association met during the week in the gyms, and we already had custodial coverage already present in those buildings, so that hasn't been an issue as far as coverage is concerned. However, yeah, there are concerns as far as disinfecting afterwards those spaces. And that would be something that our custodial staff would have to do.
And we would pay, pay for the custodial costs?
So we do not, we actually bill, there's an agreement, lease agreement that covers the cost of that for Victory Assembly of God, so they do cover the cost of that. For Pittsgrove Basketball Association, there used to be no additional cost.
Right, because someone's already
there.
Got it.
However, there might be some considerations that the board might, if we're going to require extra disinfecting, that could be additional cost. If you're requiring a security staff, that would have an additional cost. So there are some things to consider. If the board was even, considering this with everything going on.
Darren, typically, if I could just say, use requests are typically an administrative function and not a function of the Board of Education, correct?
By board policy, the superintendent has the direction to approve and not approve use of facility requests. What happened though is in August, made a decision to no longer allow.
The board did.
To no longer allow outside use of facilities in the district. Now the board can rescind that and make this a decision up to the superintendent if they so choose. But at this point, that's where we're at.
But if the board takes no action at this point, it's essentially a denial of.
It stays the way it was.
Yes, correct.
So we need a motion to rescind.
We need action to allow the use request.
Right, that's correct.
Okay, are we looking to rescind our motion from August, or are we going to maintain?
Well, I think that's simple. I think we should just ask for a motion. And either somebody's gonna make it and it's gonna get seconded and then we vote, or nobody's gonna make it and it dies. I think that's the simplest way to go. That would be my opinion.
To make a motion to rescind or make a motion to move forward?
That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
You ask somebody to make a motion to rescind.
Right, that's what I'm asking about. Go right ahead.
Gotcha. We don't even need a motion to rescind the order because the other
Right, that's what
one
I'm
is standing right now.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Are we leaving it the way it is, or are we making a motion to change it? So
I'll make a
either way,
motion.
somebody wants to make a motion, go right
I'll
ahead.
make a motion. I'll second.
You making a motion to do what, Joe?
Yeah, to rescind.
To rescind what we decided in August.
Right. I'll
You
second.
Okay, all in favor? I'm sorry, any discussion? Discussion.
Just want to clarify, the motion to rescind the denial of all use requests. So this would allow use requests to be, again, determined by the administration rather than this Board of Education.
Any other discussion?
Discuss? Am I allowed to be part of the discussion?
Yeah, can we have you ask, I would like to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'm reluctant because this is gonna be on.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to realize that when you're making decisions about use of facilities, that you can't be arbitrary about them. If you're gonna allow use of facilities, then you have to consider every use of facility. And although we're discussing 2 use of facilities requests tonight that seem like, they have a long-standing history in this community. But then if you rescind your August board decision, now that's gonna open up the doors for other entities to start looking at facilities requests. And that might put administration in a tough spot with having to pick and choose who they're giving these facility requests to. So I just wanted the board to consider that before they cast their vote.
Right, so
Go ahead.
I don't like that idea. Because then it puts the administration in an awkward position and then it puts the board in an awkward position because then there's again, an equity issue, because then it's like, well, this person can come in and do this, but then this person can't.
Well, I think what, Steve had said, it's always been an administrative function. It was never a board function. It became our function because of the COVID and the virus and the school and everything that was going on. And then when we made the decision to not let anybody come in because of, the pandemic that we're in, that's what the board decided. But what we're saying tonight, based on the motion, was that we're gonna take it off of us and it goes back onto administration to make that decision as to whether they're gonna open up the facilities for usage.
If I may suggest, and once again, I won't be here for this, but we have to look this in the context of what's happening, as was mentioned, Dr. Cannon. This is all in the context of we're in a very extraordinary times, and that's a pandemic. So business as usual is not business as usual. So the board chose to ban all activities based on where we were, at that time. Now we're back. We look like these are consistent with how our other groups are using the facilities logically. However, it's a pandemic. It's going to continue to be. And so you may want to change the motion to read that rescind the order and that all facilities requests should be based on board approval, because I think as a community, maybe you guys should be part of it. I don't know how you feel about that, but that would sort of resolve that. I think because of the sensitivity and the nature of this, as an administrator, I would be more comfortable at least getting the input from the board. And once again, I'm not going to be here. I don't know how Mr. Carey would feel. It just extends out that idea of we're giving it some thought, because it is not normal times. Once COVID's gone, you go back to business as usual. But maybe up to that point, any further, just like we did tonight, we shared it with you guys. We're basically getting your opinion because you're voting on it. You know the heartbeat of the community, and we always rely on the board as administrators, as representatives of the community, to give us that feedback. And so in this case, it's such an unusual time, maybe we should. Mr. Carey, would you mind? I hope I didn't step on your toe there, just went off.
Is there any more discussion?
No, well said. I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. So, because I can't remember if we've had any since I've been here. So you're saying the normal course was the administration made the decision and it did not come to the board at all?
Correct.
It was just, they made a decision and that was it. And is that,
That's not true. That's not true. We always have to approve. We've always had to do a facilities. I feel like every year we get the contract. Is it the financial impact that we get? That's what we have to approve. Is the financials of leasing out the space? Because we do have a say, typically, on something.
That's accurate. The contract for the CCD program and the Victory Assembly of God, that contract is approved by the board. It's got a financial impact to the board.
Right.
So that contract does go to the board and gets approved. But your typical use of facilities that don't have that contract associated with it, beyond the typical signing for the one-time use, does not go to the board.
Correct. So I just want to make sure everybody understands, if we rescind this, we basically as a board will have no say. And my
Unless you
opinion-
change the motion.
Right now in the middle of a pandemic, I wouldn't want to put that on the administration. Just me personally. I wouldn't want that decision as the administration. I wouldn't want to be making it as a single board member either. So I don't support that at all, but, so that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I mean, I'm sure you're not surprised to hear this from me, but, I feel the same way. I think there was a very specific reason we did that. And we did that, if you remember, in a time period that was kind of green. Like we weren't in where we are, where there's just more exposure and our students are in school and all these things. And we're dealing with, we just had guidance from NJSAA about sports indoors and the facility use there. And, and I understand we can't have parents and, there's different things or limitations to that. But that's a whole nother level we've got to deal with too. So I think it's early. That's my opinion. I don't think that this is something the board needs to have a say on all the time. I think that we're in strange times, to your point, Tom. But generally speaking, I think that, we're adding risk where we don't need to add risk right now. I just don't think that's necessary.
I'll just make one more comment is,
Go ahead.
to me, just about the two we have in front of us right now, to me, if they're both approved, and let's just say they are based on the rules that they would be under, to me, that's not equitable. You have one organization that's going to be limited to 10, and no parent is going to be able to come in here and watch their kids. Yet a church can come in with 100 people. You don't think the parents of the basketball teams are going to complain that we're letting a church in with 100 people and they can't come in and watch their kids and maybe have 30 people? I think that's a big issue for me, the disparity between the two groups of what the rules would be. So that's another issue that I have with, allowing these two groups to come in. Because I don't think it would be fair to the parents of the basketball players. They can't have 30 people in the room, but the church can have 100. I just think that's not equitable.
And that's following the guidelines of our governor.
Yes.
And I think that that's not anything that we have to concern ourselves with. It's the governor's guidelines, and we have to adhere to them. And if we are going to let these two entities in, that's what's going to happen. We are going to have to allow them to follow what the governor has said. And I think that that's what we have to do. If we choose to open the doors to these two organizations, then we just have to be obedient or to follow the governor's guidelines. And I don't think that anybody, I wouldn't look at it any different. Basketball and church are totally two different things. And the guidelines for churches is what he's instituting is different than what's being instituted by the sports program.
Okay.
And that's not the fault of the church or the parents. That's what our government is saying, and we have to adhere to that.
And I totally understand that. And I understand if we let them both in, those are the rules. I, as a board member and as a parent, think those rules are unfair in a school. This isn't a church. This is a school.
But this church has been here for 30 years, coming here, having service here. So in essence, this is their place of worship. It may be a school, but let's face it, when we took them in 30 years ago, we gave them a place that they call church and they call home. Maybe we don't look at it that way, but that's what they do. And that happened 30 years ago about. So we can't change our mind now as far as what they see it as. They see it as their church, whether we do or not.
If I might just add,
I really don't like to see the board get in a position of micromanaging administrative functions. I don't think that's what the board should be about. And that's sort of my general feeling.
Mhm.
Joe, that's exactly how I feel. I don't want to throw an administrator under the bus. However, it's your decision. It shouldn't be ours, and we should never we shouldn't put ourselves in a chain of command when we're not in a chain of command. And fundamentally, it just should be that way. We shouldn't step on the toes. However, either one of you, if you're gonna make that decision, I'm sure you're gonna get the blessing of the board, at least see how we feel about it. So you're not thrown to the wolves. And I don't think it's gonna open a big can of worms. If we're not letting people in, we're not letting people in. If we are, then we are. That's one way or the other. We gotta do one thing or the other. We gotta make a stand and just do it. But that's your decision. And of course, we'll probably give you our blessing if you can convince us that it's a sound decision. But I don't think we should micromanage like this.
And let me say that, I know the concern is that, we do two, what do we have to do everybody? Everybody, as long as they're consistent with the rules of engagement, so to speak. In terms of, you can't somebody come in and say, listen, I want to have can I cater the gym because I want to have a party? But that's not allowed. So any group that's going to come in would have to be under the guidelines that were already officially established by the government. And so that would guide us as it guides us here, that we couldn't say youth basketball, and by the way, you don't have to abide by the limits with the church. So I think with Mr. Carey, and I probably, Matt, once again, you can speak up, but we're not going to make any decision that's inconsistent with guidelines that have already been, established for public use anywhere. So.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we're gonna need a motion.
We have a motion and a second already to extend the denial for the use of facility request.
Okay, let's have a roll call, Mr. Harris.
This is
So this is to rescind the motion
Yes,
denying
it's
all use of facility requests, and therefore when you deny it, now that goes back to the superintendent to make the decision per board policy.
So if I say yes, I'm saying he's on his own and the board has nothing to do with his decision.
As per policy. But you're going back.
Not every board has this policy, but this board has made it an administrative function to approve use of facility requests.
Can I not be first?
I think it's important.
Going
that, yeah, but I think it's important in the motion that you reference back to policy, because back to policy also reference you don't want to make it sound like, oh, even if they're contracts, the board doesn't have to know. That's still in policy. If there's a contract.
There's a financial impact.
Yes, so you're basically returning to the status quo. So you're not in any way negating the fact that boards do approve contracts for use of outside facilities. That's stated in policy. So you're just rescinding
the decision we made in August. So we'll go back to exactly what you're saying now.
status quo. As per policy. Yeah, just back to the motion should be rescind the actions in August and to return to facilities use as per policy. Okay, and then you come back.
Are you okay
Alright.
with amending it
Okay.
like that, Joe?
Okay.
Ready? Mrs. Foster.
I want you to come back.
Go in reverse.
Okay. I'll just keep going when we come back. If that's okay with the board president?
Watch me do the tying vote.
That's fine. That's fine.
That's fine? Okay. Mr. Hancock.
No.
Mr.
Excuse me,
Hartman.
no.
Gotcha, thank you. Mrs. Mullen.
No.
Mr. Wenzel.
Yes.
Mr. Wheaton.
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo.
No.
Dr. Cannon.
Yes.
Mrs. Foster.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's five and you don't have a quorum. You don't have.
It really doesn't.
So
The vote is not going to carry. The vote is not going to carry.
I'm going to abstain because I don't feel comfortable voting.
That's fine. You can abstain.
The vote does not carry.
Yeah.
you have to have a majority.
I'm sorry, the motion.
The motion does not carry,
Sorry,
right?
The motion does not carry.
Okay, so, and we're all in agreement with, I mean, it is what it is, so it's fine. So it's fine.
Process.
So that means let me clarify, we're holding on to what we said in August.
Right.
So we're not taking anybody in as of right now.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, everybody okay? Everybody good? Thank you. All right, moving right along.
That's a much easier motion to consider.
Yes, okay. Board of Education, I just want to mention that also under new business, we will have our Board of Education reorganization meeting. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the Board of Education reorganization meeting to be held on Thursday, January 7th, 2021 at 6:30 PM. Approval of the Board of Education, okay, meeting. All right,
So
Need a motion?
yes, please.
So,
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Question, when are we gonna do our, committee meetings that month?
So typically in the reorg meeting, we'll have all that there. My thought process originally would be the 7th, and the 14th, the next Thursday. And this is where it's tricky. Do you want to have it the 21st or 28th? Either way, you're gonna have a back-to-back, right? You can do the 28th, and then just the next week you have the next committee meeting. That'll give a little bit more time in between, but I mean, really. Or you have a lot of options here, because you could also do the reorg 7th, committee 21st, and board meeting 28th, but then you have 3. You're gonna have 3 no matter what, back to back.
Right.
that time of year.
I say do two.
January.
January 7th, the 14th, and 28th, I guess. Or you guys want to do them back to back, 3 in a row?
Actually, that's the only way you don't have 3 back to back.
Yeah,
You
well,
do the
right.
7th, 14th, and then you have the 28th and the 4th.
Right.
I'm not running around in January, so whatever is the.
Okay.
I don't think anybody is.
Okay. I don't think anybody's going anywhere, period. But, all right, so we'll reorg the 7th, and we'll reorg the 7th, we'll
And it'll be on there on the 7th.
committee meeting on the 14th, and then we'll have our board meeting on either the 21st or 28th.
We'll wait till the reorg to do
Let's
those.
keep it with
We'll
the.
wait till the reorg. We can have that conversation now if you want, but we should wait till the reorg to approve all that, because we have a new board member coming on. And so typically any days beyond the reorg meeting is waited until that reorg date to approve.
Oh, I knew that, but I thought we were discussing the other stuff.
You can't hurt that discussion now to set your calendars. But the official motion beyond the reorg date should happen at the reorg.
Gotcha. Okay,
So we do need to approve this motion now.
Right.
About the 21st, I know we have a programs of studies booklet that often gets approved in January, and it would be extremely helpful if we had a board meeting on the 21st, just to kind of.
The 21st,
to roll it out, you mean?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna float that out there and think about as, you know,
Okay.
we can always
Yeah.
work, but that's just something, that
Okay.
I know is a big.
Put it in our minds. Thank you. Appreciate that, Mrs. Foxman. Thank you so much. All right, so it's been, motioned and second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? So moved. Reorganization will be Thursday, January 7th, 2021 at 6:30. Okay, Mr. Harris, Business and Finance Report.
I'd like a motion to approve item number 18, letters A through K.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion second. Any discussion?
Just real quick, I did have to add 2 things, the preschool plan, which is an annual plan update that wasn't available on Thursday. We didn't get it to that Friday. So I apologize for that, but that's the update we do every year for preschool plan. And then school security grant, we just wanted to we finally got that released, the grant release. I want to get that approval in because the deadline's coming up. It actually was supposed to be tomorrow, but they moved it back actually to December 21st. So we still have time on that, but at the time this was released, we did not know that.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, roll call, Mr. Harris, please.
Mrs. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Hancock,
Yes.
Mr. Hardman,
Yes.
Mr. Miletta. I'm sorry, Mrs. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Wenzel,
Yes.
Mr. Whedon,
Yes.
Mr. DiMatteo,
Yes.
Dr. Cannon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, for your information, we know we always are fortunate to get our administrative monthly reports, and we kudos to our administrators for the fine job that they do with that. Our district enrollment information has been given in SAC. Discipline reports, board and administrator handout we received. Cumberland and Salem County combined school board meeting, and our Board of Education goals and district and superintendent goals for 2020 to 21. Any questions, comments, or regarding any of those items? Okay, Mr. Harris, is there any audience participation at this time?
There is.
Okay,
The first comes from Jennifer Huber, parent of Olivet student. Good evening. It is predicted that there will be a spike in cases following the Thanksgiving holiday. I would like to know how you will accommodate students who need to or choose to quarantine for a 2-week period following the holiday. Will those students be able to do remote learning during that period without becoming full-time remote learners? Or alternatively, would they be able to do work that is picked up from the school? It was reported in Governor Murphy's press meeting yesterday that COVID-19 testing sites are overbooked and are not able to accommodate the influx of people wishing to get tested. This creates further risk, as those who have symptoms or may have been exposed may not be able to get tested in a timely fashion. And I hope that there will be a process in place for those who choose to quarantine. Another question on behalf of, I believe, another parent of Pittsgrove in the middle school. This is the same person writing this. The added live classes for 5th grade level have not actually been live lessons. The days allotted for the live social studies and science has just been for any questions the students had after completing the assignment in Google Classroom. So far, the only actual live virtual lessons have been in ELA, art, and math. Will there be further improvements made for virtual students with live lessons? Lastly, I would like to express my disappointment in the decision to keep the elementary students in phase 2, despite our region being labeled high risk. I understand that it's a difficult situation and that everyone will be happy, but I simply disagree with the decision that was made today and feel like keeping our kids safe and healthy should be the highest priority. Thank you for your time. Jennifer Huber.
Okay, Mrs. Zuber, once again, thank you very much for your comments. Most of those questions are operational ones on a school level, so I will defer those to your principal. I will see that, I think it's Mr. Monte, get back to you. They're really things that should be discussed at that school level in particular, so I will defer those. And once again, as I said with the earlier comments, your concerns are certainly so noted. I think there's an awful lot of people who have those concerns, and in terms of the option to have all virtual, we certainly will do everything we can to provide that if you choose it. So, Steph, I don't know if
Yeah, I can answer some of those very quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
As far as the quarantine, yes, we have a couple options, whether it's hard copy items that will be sent home for kids that need to quarantine, Google Classrooms at Olivet, or Seesaw and Google Classrooms. Those formats will remain in place. We've had conversations with teachers about what the kids have already seen. They will continue to use that format in the event that a student does have to quarantine. We've talked about, we have dedicated virtual teachers, perhaps jumping onto their live sessions so that they're still getting that live instruction, but then having the work in the Google Classroom or hard copy. A lot of our teachers at the grade levels are planning together, so they are on the same pace with each other. So yes, there will be an ability for those kids who may need to quarantine for a certain amount of time to keep pace with the work, keep on their Google Classrooms, their Seesaw. Perhaps again, they may have hard copy work in front of them, and they will have an opportunity to get onto live instructional lessons with the all virtual teacher. Again, we're going to keep an eye on those numbers and how many kids are quarantining, and we will adjust appropriately. As far as the comment on the live, I believe they meant for the afternoon sessions for virtual for the middle school. Yes, those should be, when we say live sessions, yes, there should be, whether that's direct instruction, whether that's teachers working with kids on assignments. It isn't office hours. We have time for office hours. So we will continue to look into that. And of course, our ultimate goal is always to improve every day. So thank you for those comments, and we will continue to look at that. I think that was it.
And so I will encourage that contact we made with your child's principal, once again, because we have to follow that chain of command. I'm uncomfortable answering for Mr. Monte, whoever that principal might be, and that's why we have those chain of commands in that regard. So, but still, I think there were coaching points brought up there in terms of some of the concerns that were general in nature, and I'm glad Sparks Manor was able to answer them.
Yes, I think one of her concerns was also that, if their children have to quarantine, that there is no problem with them coming back in after quarantine, correct?
Oh, no, not at all.
Right.
And a quarantine could
That's what
be,
she
yeah.
said, because if somebody has to quarantine after Thanksgiving, she wanted to make sure that they wouldn't have to stay on hybrid, that they could come back.
no, we have.
That was one of the things she said, yes. Okay.
And understand that quarantine could end in 2 days, depending on what the test results are. As far as the availability of test sites right now locally, and that's what we pay attention to, people have been at full access to getting tested almost within the day that they're required to. So we've not, at this point in time, locally received any feedback in terms of some testing sites. I'm sure in some of the more densely populated areas of the state, that's probably what the governor was referencing, but we have not received any indication from the health department, who we rely on for the information. I don't want to be smart, but we don't rely on Facebook, we rely on the health department. And that's who we, so right now we have had no indication that there's been any people unable to get tested at this time.
There is another comment. This one comes from Jessica Brannon. How does it work with notifying parents when we have positive cases? Is the entire class notified and quarantined? How does that work for students who need to quarantine with schoolwork? Are they participating virtually during that time? The elementary school, they are eating in the cafeteria with multiple classes. Would all students need to be notified? They are also passing the halls, they are also passing in the halls with other classes. Do you notify those students in classes as well? Cases will increase after the holiday, and why are we not planning to be all virtual for 2 weeks following the holiday?
Okay, that's a lot of questions. Let me try to answer them. I know there was a question about the cafeteria, how the system works. So what happens is, once again, as the regulations are, there's this term called close contacts. There's this term called presumptive positive, and there's this term called positive, and there's also a contact. So we can work through this, and I wish the nurses were on. They couldn't get on tonight, but Ms. Heil, if you're on, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it works like this. Somebody who is in close contact with somebody who has tested positive, so every indication that we've had this year has been coming from home, not from school. Okay, so I don't know that we've had a student who's tested positive who's been here, okay, and then transmitted it to somebody else. We're not there yet. We may not get there, but there's no guarantee that we will. So if you're in contact with somebody at home who tests positive, and we've had those situations where a parent is positive, then the people in that house are considered presumptive positive if they show symptoms. That's now changed that we're in orange, but just so you understand. So what happens is, if we get a child who is a close contact, okay, a presumptive positive, then we do a contact tracing. That contact tracing consists of, was that child in close contact with somebody within 6 feet for more than, I believe it's 10 minutes. That may have changed, but there's a designated period of time. In other words, it isn't an opinion. It's very strict. That's why we go by the guidelines. So that then you could have 8 children in a classroom, but there may have only been 3 that were in 6 feet of each other. Okay, so that's why our numbers have been very low in terms of what has been determined close contact and have to then quarantine. If you're at a party, if your parent was at a party of somebody who tested positive, you're third person removed. Okay? So there's no need for us to do any notifications. So our policy here, I think it's a good one. There's 2 different letters that go out. Once we've made a determination that your child is a close contact, you are going to get a letter letting you know that your child was identified as a close contact, okay, and that they would have to quarantine. That's the first. If you don't get that letter, that means your child was not determined to be a close contact. The second letter that goes out, and there'll be one going out here tomorrow, is basically just telling the district as a whole, because we really feel we need to be open about this. But by the way, one of our staff members, one of, whoever, however, we've taken the same thing, the right precautions, and if you were determined to be a close contact, you would have been notified already. For privacy reasons, we cannot disclose in general who that person was, whose class it was. It's only the people who were in the class who were determined to be close contact will be notified. So I can't say it was a biology teacher, it was a third grade teacher, it was Mrs. So-and-so. I have to be very careful in my language to make sure that I don't give out any inadvertent hints that people could figure it out. Okay? So all we do is, all we're permitted to do, and this is, by the way, all guidance coming down from the CDC, the attorneys, the health department, to protect us. So, we can identify the school, but that's as far as we can go. And I know this board has chosen not only the school, and also that's a recommendation of health department, but it should go out full district, which is what I've been doing. So I can't even give additional information about how many close contacts there were. I can share it with the board. You guys are confidential. I can't share that with the public. Just so hopefully that answers that question. The other question is the cafeteria. In the cafeteria, yes, we do have children sitting close, but we're following the guidelines in that case where they're wearing masks, there's shields, the lunches are delivered to them. All those things, all those precautions are being taken that are aligned with the recommendations that are being made. Once again, it's not the opinion of Mrs. Foxmano, Mr. Coleman. It's following the guidelines that are already established. What was the other one? Darren, if you give a list.
Hallway.
Yes, the hallways, interesting. Obviously, I was in the schools yesterday, watched some passing. Remember the rule. Within 6 feet for more than 10 minutes. Passing time is 40. So at first I got a little bit, ooh, but then you realize they're not that close to each other for more than 4 minutes, and they're in transition. So following those guidelines, if you're saying, do they have to be notified if they're, every kid they pass in the hall? No, not according to the health guidelines, not what Mr. Coleman says, but the health guidelines say there's no need to notify somebody because that did not constitute a close contact. Administrators, Mrs. Foxmano, did I get all that right?
Yeah.
Just want to double check.
Like if you go up and you're close to someone for 10 seconds or a minute that you contract COVID. And that's why there's that very specific guideline of it happens. I think at this point it's cumulative for 15 minutes within 6 feet. So, that's really important to understand, and along with all the close contact information. Yeah.
I think she also asked why we're not closing
After the holiday.
after the holidays.
After the holiday.
Yes.
Yes, some schools are choosing to do that. It has to do with their local conditions. If you look at schools that are doing that, they're probably in a high spike area. Our local data, once again, it's got to be proportionate to the risk. Does not, necessitate making that kind of decision yet. We don't do it just because everybody else is doing it. We do it based on the local information and the local conditions within our area, not because it's on the news that 15 schools are choosing to do that. They're in different situations than us. And once again, I will tell you that that's what the governor is emphasizing, is that make decisions locally based on local conditions, local opinions, and that's what we're going by.
That's, let me just double check one more time. I believe that's it.
Okay.
There is no more public comment.
Okay.
If, Madam President, if you would indulge me for 1 minute while I have the public. I'm going to send this letter out probably later next week, but I think let me use this opportunity tonight to say to everybody, we're approaching the holidays, we're approaching the Thanksgiving holidays. My sense is that the consensus of this public is we want to do what we can to keep our children in school. I plead with you. It's not just up to us. It's not just up to us. That if we are so determined as a community to keep our schools open and not have to close because of the spread of this virus, everybody has to be a part of that. So I urge you that as we go through the holidays, as being urged by all of our leaders, that we use common sense, that we take the appropriate precautions, that we protect not only ourselves but our family and then our schools. We're into this because it only takes one person, one family to start a hot spread that can close a whole school down. Maybe not a whole district, but can close a whole school down for 14 days. So please, we all know what we value. Let's all pitch in together and make sure that we follow those regulations and use common sense in order to hold true to something that I think everybody here truly values. So I just wanted to say that, and I thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. We know that we want to do everything to keep as much as possible to keep everyone safe, healthy, and alive throughout this holiday season so that we have another one in 2021. That is the goal, I believe, for all of us. We have no closed session matters. So at this time, for the good of the order. Nothing for the good of the order. Well, I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Even to our community, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving. We know that may look different this year, but we're just still blessed to be able to celebrate Thanksgiving. Anybody else?
May I say that my comments actually were for the good of the order?
Yes, they were. Anything else? Okay. To the community, we thank you for joining us tonight, and to all of the board members and to everyone out there, thank you and have a great night. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Have a good night, everyone.
You're still live.
We're still live, guys, so just, Darren's gonna take us off here.
Oh, you need that minutes. That's
Just shoot. Thank you.
And this view that you're seeing here